So I'm sitting here with Kahalah Clay, and you know what? Everybody wants to know what's been your journey.
Wow, that's a lot.
Hold on, but we got to get the intro.
Yes.
You got to intro it. I'm just a producer.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Pearls and Politics Podcast, where we are polished and poised for greatness and impact. Thank you for joining us today as I conduct my first solo podcast. I've been putting it off. I've been avoiding it, but today I am going to...
It is the day.
Try my best to share my journey and what brought Pearls and Politics Podcast to be. Thank you for joining us today.
So, hello.
Hi.
Let me start off with something you always say. But will you come back?
Definitely.
I hope so. I hope so. So look,
back.
I like to get to the nitty gritty. How did you come up with all this?
How did I come up with Pearls and Politics? Well, it came from years as an attorney, years in politics. I was the elected circuit clerk in St. Clair County for over 10 years, and I ran in 3 elections. I won 3 elections, the last being by approximately 8,000 votes.
Oh, you ain't nothing to play with then, huh?
In a pandemic.
A pandemic.
That was rough, but 3 elections, and I served the people of St. Clair County for 10 years as their elected circuit clerk. And so after a decade in politics and much of what I had seen, much of what I had learned, I wanted everyone to have knowledge and understanding, because it was clear in many circumstances and situations that sometimes people just didn't understand. They didn't understand the process. They didn't understand government, and especially communities of color. There was a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding. And so I wanted everyone, not just communities of color, but to be able to have a better understanding of government and the political process and the legislative process. So that kind of birthed this platform and Pearls and Politics LLC. And I'm just looking forward to bringing more information, more subject matter experts, and just more information to the community.
So I enjoy the platform, not because I'm just the producer, but I enjoy the platform. But tell me about some of the guests that you've had so far. Now, for you guys that don't know, this is episode 10. This is episode 10. Now, with this being episode 10, you've had 9 episodes before this. Now, usually some people go podcast ghosts, within them 9. You didn't. You did great.
So I made it past.
You passed the ghost part. Okay. Now, tell me about the guests that you've had, these 9. Now, we got 12, but tell me about those 9, those first 9, or divine 9, Hey.
The first 9, they were great. So they are all people that I have close relationships with, some closer than others, but people that are part of my village. So I know in most episodes, I'm like, you were the first person I thought of, but literally they often are the very first person that I thought of, because they are the expert in whatever it is. So whether it was Tyler or John Pierre, or whether it was Alondra or Brandy, mental health, and them each specializing in a particular area. Whether it was Cherie and Jocelyn with Black Lady Courtroom, which is so near and dear.
Episode.
Thank you, so near and dear to my heart. Obviously, they are awesome at what they do, and they are my sisters in the law. So that was a joy to have them come on. Then, of course, our very first episode.
Oh yeah, heavy hitter.
Yes, with leader, State Representative Latoya Greenwood. She is a dear friend, and so I wanted her. And then, of course, Senator Chris Belt is also a very dear friend. Yeah. And so just, bringing everybody in And then, of course, my rider,
Oh yeah,
Nicole Brazil. You already know who I'm talking about.
Nicole Brazil.
Yes, she came and started off, our series on financial literacy that we will continue. But they are all people that I talk to all the time, that help me out all the time.
Your village, as you say.
Exactly.
Right.
So I wanted them to come on and share their wealth of knowledge with everybody.
Okay, so I mean, these first 9 have been really, really great. What can we expect in season 2?
Well, we are currently working on season 2.
Yeah.
We are currently working on season 2. Just so many things that, we're trying to cultivate, here in our podcast space, but from a new set design and looking forward to that. Because
this is not the new set. This is just my set that I did because I'm a creative. So please don't hold this against her. Thank you.
I think it's fabulous.
Oh, but let's talk about my bling. We've had multiple men on the podcast and they didn't have the bling, but I decided to have the bling because it doesn't bother me. I'm secure with who I am. I have to get them when I can. But this new set, new design, new look, new feel, but same great content, right?
Yes. Same great content, looking to have some new guests. Probably will have some people revisit because each particular episode, like with Alex Fenoy, Senior Vice President of Business Services with St. Louis Community Credit Union, like he said, there's so much more to talk about. And in the interest of time, he couldn't get everything out.
Right. And he was dropping major dimes, just like Nicole did. Mm-hmm. She killed it too.
Yes. Yeah. So they all have more to share. And particularly financial literacy is really something that I really want to hit home because it helped me a lot. Right. Because there's so much, people think because you practice law or whatever, that you know all these things. But no, everybody has their area of specialty or expertise. And so, I will probably have people come back, but then of course there will be lots of new guests in season 2.
Okay. Now, I understand everything with podcasts, but I know there's something deeper that drives you. How did you get into law? How did you get into being attorney, circuit clerk? What was that journey like?
Well,
now give this to us from, the perspective of we don't know anything, because I really want to know, what did it take? You, a Black woman from these 89 blocks. And if you didn't know, I'm from the 89 blocks. But what did it take? How did you do it? How did you beat everything, all the odds that were put against you coming from those 89 blocks? How did you win?
Well, I want to say 2 things that I've always had. I remember years ago in law school, there was a Black judge that was being put on the bench. He was having his ceremony, and he said he wanted to thank God and great parents. And so that stuck with me and has been with me for 20 years now, because that has been truly, what has worked and has been why I'm here. Why I made it this far, because I had 2 great parents. My father was fire chief for the majority of my childhood in East St. Louis. He was fire chief during a time where African-American men pretty much weren't the chief of anything, let alone fire departments and things of that nature. And so he did that. My mother worked for the same major corporation in their business office for 41 years. So I had parents who worked, who had a work ethic, who, believed in working hard and pushing through. So my mother has suffered from migraines and all types of, but I don't remember a day that my mother didn't go to work. Like, I don't remember a day that my dad didn't go to work. And he loved his job. So I knew I wanted to do something that I love, because my dad's like, well, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
That's true.
And so I said, well, I want to do something that I love. And then my mother, like I said, she just was a really hard worker. And then my dad was also an NCAA Division I referee growing up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and again, during a time where Black men were not in that space.
Exactly.
And so I just had two really great parents that just really believed in me, thought I could do anything. I was a daddy's girl. And I say was because when I was in law school, my father passed away from cancer, and that was very difficult for me. But I knew that if I didn't finish, it just would have been beyond disappointing. So I had to make sure that I finished and that I did what I was supposed to do. So I still have my mom. I call her the real MVP because of my mama, I can be great. Okay, it is no question. So these last 19 years, my mother has just been a driving force for so many things, and she stands in the gap. Every opportunity, that comes her way, she's there for me. She's there, for me and my husband, and then for our 3 kids. So that definitely was, what has driven me these last many years. Now, I did not initially want to be a lawyer.
What? What did you want to?
No,
what did you want to?
I didn't. Initially, I wanted to be an eye doctor. Maybe
Really?
it's these gigantic eyeballs. I don't know, but I wanted to be an eye doctor. And I started out pre-law speech communication at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, okay?
U of I.
Yes.
I know many people that went to U of I and caught that bus back home.
Well, I stayed.
You stayed and got it done.
It took a long time. It was 5 years and a super senior year and all of that, but I got it done. But I wanted to be an eye doctor. And so I was pre-med biology when I first started, and it started out really well. And then those grades started going south. And I was like, well, what is it? Why is this not?
Were you partying?
No. Well, I did party. Now, don't get me wrong. My girlfriends would be like, wait a minute. Yes,
I've heard all the stories about Chicago coming to U of I, and they the house music and Nunu and all that, I know.
No, that wasn't it. But for whatever reason, I think it was because that wasn't my destiny.
Right.
And every time in my life where I'm going down a path that is not the destiny that God has for me.
Oh, yeah, he'll turn it.
I pivot. What do we say here on Purpose?
Yeah.
We pivot. So he pivots me. Mm-hmm. And so then I transitioned. So I'll never forget, it was going into my super senior year, and I sat up in my bed in my studio apartment that my father paid my rent every month, by the way. Mm. And I sat up in bed and I said, I don't want to be an eye doctor anymore. I'm going to be a lawyer. And I called my dad, and as long as I live, I won't forget it. He said, I don't care if you major in basket weaving. Mm. I'm not paying no more rent after June. My father had never said anything similar to that to me in his life. Never told me no. Never told me. He said, I will not pay another dime of rent after June. I finished an entire degree in 2 semesters because I was in the same school. Right. So I was still in LAS. All of my credits transferred, and I finished an entire degree on the Dean's List, by the way, in 2 semesters.
Oh, yeah, you were determined that rent not getting paid.
Because what I'm going to do? I can't pay it. So
that'll motivate you, won't it?
Yes, won't it? So I finished. And, of course, my father and my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, were both there. And they're both now gone on. But that was it. And so I took a gap year after because I was like, I need to make some money and get a car. Right. You know how we do when we come out and, and then I started working for ISCO in management. Okay. And so that just did not fit with me. It just didn't. It just was not my fit. Right. And so it motivated me. Here we go again with the pivot.
Telling you.
That did not work. He was like, this is not it. Daughter, get moving. So I'll never forget, you remember Circuit City?
Oh, yes.
I went to Circuit City and bought that compact computer. Remember, they had
with the big
orange
bag
on the back,
yeah,
blue.
Yeah, that big bag. This
of
course,
heavy. I bought red.
Oh.
Because that's another thing about me. My favorite color in the entire world, it's more like an OCD, is red. Really? And so I am known for the color red. It's my signature color. So I went and bought a red one. And I bought an LSAT. That's when you had the CD-ROM. Mm-hmm. And I'd studied for the LSAT, and I did horribly. And I have this is my testimony, so I'm going to tell it all.
There you go.
I did horribly, but again, as the Lord would have it, I got admitted to law school. And the rest is history. So I graduated. Unfortunately, like I said, my father passed right before I finished. And so I graduated and I took the bar exam, and I felt like I did horribly on every practice exam for the bar exam. Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. Me and my girlfriend, Leah, my best friend from undergrad, Leah Cannon, we studied all summer. I quit my job. My mother, paid my rent, my car note. Oh, it was a whole family.
You
it was
got a
village.
history of somebody paying this
It
rent.
was a village effort, okay? And so but as the Lord would have it, I passed the first time.
Oh, wow.
And I started working for my first service job as a public defender in one of the largest cities in the country, in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Wow.
One of the best experiences of my life. Taught me how to be a trial attorney, taught me how to advocate, and taught me how to care for underserved communities. So I represented so many Black and brown people. A lot of people don't know that Indianapolis has a large Latino population, right. Latinx population, and so, and of course, a large African American population. And so I represented countless men and women, and I did everything I could to change their impression of what a public defender was. Because they call us public pretenders. They call us public pretenders.
Yeah.
And there were so many men and women who were like,
you don't care about me.
Miss Hill or Mrs. Dixon at that time, and they were just like, you have completely changed how I see indigent defense. And I was like, that's my ministry. Like, that is what I'm supposed to do. And so that was my first legal job, and that's how I transitioned. That's how I pivoted out of undergrad and law school. So yeah.
So what was the next pivot after that?
Oh wow. The next pivot after that was tragic.
Yeah.
I met an amazing young man where I went to church,
okay.
Progressive Missionary Baptist Church in Indianapolis, Indiana. The Reverend Michael K. Jones was the pastor then. Unfortunately, he's gone on as well. But I met his minister of music, and one thing led to another, and we fell in love, and we got married. And so that was shortly after law school. And we had a little boy by the name of Anthony Dixon III. And when Anthony was about 8 months old, shortly after my 31st birthday, and just weeks before his 31st birthday, my husband passed away after having surgery to have a brain tumor removed. So it was the second time that we had the tumor removed, and the second time did not go so well. So I was a 31-year-old widow with an 8-month-old baby. I had a law firm at the time, the law office of Kahalah Dixon, and we had Dixon National Transport. We had a trucking company, and obviously he was in ministry, in music ministry. And it was very difficult because I'm like, this is not what I planned. Like, I planned a lot, and this was not part of that. This was supposed to be, and I'll never forget one day I was, the Lord was like, it's exactly, because you said, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and health, till death do you part. And it was all of those things. Just never thought it would come at 2 years and 7 months rather than 57 years, right? And so I had to make a decision. Do I jump in the casket because I wanted to, or do I do what my dad, my grandmother, and my late husband will want me to do, and that's continue. And that's what I decided to do. And I thank God for my son, because I think that was very purposeful and strategic, because it would have probably been easier for me to give up if I didn't have an 8-month-old baby depending on me. And my mother lived with us at the time. So it was good. Obviously, she had been through that many years before. And so she was there for the real MVP again, there in the clutch, okay? And so, so I had to say, do I keep going or do I not? And so I lived in Indianapolis for about another year and worked. And I said, you know what? I'm moving back home, like Ruth. I'm moving back home. And so I packed up my mother and my baby, and I had been blessed with a wonderful job opportunity. Then State's Attorney Bob Hader, now Circuit Judge Bob Hader, who was a widower. So we shared a very similar story. And he knew my dad. So he knew my dad because my dad had reffed his boys. So he's like, Bruce's daughter? Say less. Okay. And so I was like, okay, well, thank you, and I moved back and he hired me and I didn't even have a license to practice.
Oh, wow.
So again, how the Lord will pivot and he's like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And so, I had to get my license. But in Illinois, you can't really, on reciprocity or being grandfathered, you can't really do that without a promise, solid promise that you're going to be practicing. And so I finally got my solid promise when he hired me. And later that summer, Justice Carmeyer at his chambers swore me in. And so I became a lawyer in the state of Illinois. And so I've been licensed in Indiana since 2004, and I've been licensed in Illinois since 2010, I believe. And
wow.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, now that is a lot.
Yeah.
Your shoulders are definitely wide because that's a heavy load to bear. I'm familiar with losing children. I haven't lost a spouse. So, my heart goes out to you for that. But there was a knight in shining armor that came in, right?
Absolutely. I was working at the state's attorney's office, and he was working at the state's attorney's office as well. And I still cannot believe that he was single to this day. I still can't believe it. But he was, because again, here we go with the pivot. Here we go with what the plan is. And so there was this young, handsome assistant state's attorney in the building, in the county. And he, again, like I said, he was single. And my mind was nowhere on any of that, obviously. And so, I guess conversations, for what I've been told, were being had around the building. And so I'm like, okay, where was I? And they were like, that's not where your mind was. So long story short, we got introduced. And it was very kind of like neutral and platonic in the beginning for obvious reasons. But his intentions were neither neutral nor platonic. And so then I discovered that later because he was very gentlemanly about it. And we started dating, and me being a widow never bothered him. Me being a mom never bothered him. If people,
well, that's a man.
Yes, if people
it's a difference. It's a difference if you're dealing with a man versus someone playing like they're a man.
And so
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I had to emphasize that.
Well, right, because obviously you would know.
Oh, yeah.
And so he, was very persistent and very loving and very kind. And, like I was saying, it was never an issue for him, like me having had a life before. As a matter of fact, I think that was something that he was quite proud of, or something that he's like, okay, so this just is a woman of substance, and, she's strong and she can persevere, and she cute and she funny and she a lawyer and I love her and I'm gonna marry her and she gonna have my babies and all and all of that. So so we fell in love and we got engaged, and I wasted no time because he proposed in like November, and then the wedding was January 28th. So
he was.
Yeah, we were both ready. And I think one of the things about life, it teaches you when you know better, you do better. And so I had that long fairy tale engagement to plan that long fairy tale wedding that first time. And then when he passed, 2 years and 7 months to the day after our wedding day, I kind of felt like that was another period of time I could have had. And so I was like, I won't make that mistake with you. And so I was like, let's get married. And he was like, absolutely. That's why I asked. And so we had a beautiful wedding because I event plan and do all that other stuff. So it was real cool. It was nothing for me. Folks was like, well, if anybody can plan a wedding in 90 days, it's you. And we had a fabulous wedding, and yeah, and so one thing led to another. So then we had Anthony the third, then we had William the fourth, and I'm like, okay, so I'm married to William the fourth. Anthony the third is our first. William the fourth is our second. Like, I'm outnumbered like every which way. Like, can we get some estrogen or something? But then I was getting old. I was getting, and so, but we were blessed with, I call her the child of my old age. With Caitlin, when I was 40. When I was 40. And so now I'm 44 and a half, and I'm chasing this 4-year-old that acts like me and looks like my mama, but has a lot of my mama's attitude. Oh boy. And so, yeah, so now we have, but that was it. Like, she came for my whole life. I was so, oh my goodness, I was so sick. And I was like, that's what you get for trying to have babies at 40. But yes, so now we are done. And we just celebrated 10 years in January. We've been married for 10 years. So
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Black love.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful, it's powerful too.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's very powerful, especially if you're on the same accord. Yes. You're equally yoked. It's something serious.
It is.
So you've met the man of your dreams. You married him. Now, are you circuit clerk then?
Yes.
Oh, so where does the circuit clerk come in?
How did that
how does that slide in between the knight in shining armor and the Little Rascals?
Okay, so when I started as an assistant state's attorney, I did not stay there a full year before I became circuit clerk.
Whoa.
So I moved back home after 15 years of being gone. And I started working as an assistant state's attorney, and I'm trying cases and doing my best and healing and just trying to feed my son, right? Because I'm like, it's just me now, and now I have to feed this baby, and it's just all on me. So I'm trying to rebuild my life.
Right. And
one day somebody was like, I heard you gonna be the next circuit clerk. And I was like, I'll never forget. Do you remember the Panera downtown Belleville?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So I'm sitting there, and I had my earbuds in, or one buds at that time. My headphones in, and was on an iPod. At that
iPod. So you were just listening to music.
Yes, an iPod.
That's good. So to all you viewers and listeners who don't know what a Walkman is, or a iPod, a tape deck, Google it.
A Discman.
Do you remember those?
Absolutely.
Do you remember where you wanted, where it wouldn't skip? You used to put it in your car. I used to sit it on a hat so it would just glide just right. Right. Think about how far we've came.
Oh.
But you know what? You and I are in the era of, we're in the best era, because we remember tape decks. We remember
VHS.
Yeah. I remember 8-tracks.
I remember 8-tracks.
I remember
8-tracks.
I remember, if you liked a song, you had to like the whole album. You just couldn't like one song on an 8-track. And if you wanted to hear
45s?
45s with the little yellow thing that you had to put in it so it'll work.
Yes.
See, what do you remember the hi-fis? Did your parents have a hi-fi?
What is that?
That was the big long thing that looked like a buffet table in your living room.
Oh yes, absolutely.
The hi-fi, some of them were fancy, had a black and white TV in it. You could slide it open.
Okay. Now see, we had the TV that you could slide open. That was in the family room.
But it had the record player at the top?
No, that was separate. So in the living room with the oil lamp.
See, you're more privileged than a lot of us. We didn't have oil lamps. We had a TV stacked on top of a TV because one didn't work. Usually that floor model one didn't work. Okay. And my dad, boy, he was special. That floor model TV wouldn't work. So he put a 13-inch on top of it until we got that one fixed. But it just never seemed to get that floor model quite right. It was always something. But go ahead.
Well, we had the lady that with the oil lamp that looked like the shower.
Oh, really?
But underneath it was absolutely what you call it, a hi-fi?
Hi-fi.
Yeah. And so there was...
Had the record player and the radio in it and the TV.
And I even had it was an 8-track player in it.
Yeah, it did. On the side.
Yep, absolutely. So, yes.
That's when you had to listen to you had to listen to real good music.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so go ahead. You had your headphones on in Panera.
Yes. And somebody walked up to me and was like, somebody said you're going to be the next circuit clerk. And I was like, I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that. And so I'm just trying to go to work and feed my baby. That's it. And so that conversation turned into less than 11 months from me moving back home and starting as an assistant state's attorney. I became the first ever African-American person to be circuit clerk in St. Clair County history and the first woman to be circuit clerk in St. Clair County history. And it was awesome. It was great. I had the most wonderful staff of people, whether they were my chief deputies. I had awesome court system admins were awesome. And then, of course, my staff, my general staff and the supervisors and the courtroom clerks and just everybody serving the people in that capacity was phenomenal. It put me in so many places and spaces that I never would have been, aside from being blessed with that role.
Right.
And so I just can't even begin to talk about the hundreds of people that I met and the many very critical relationships that I developed, not just on the county level, but all across the state. And so it was just a wonderful experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It wasn't always easy, okay? That would be a lie if I was like, oh, every day was great. But on no job is every day great.
Exactly. Unless you're a podcast producer. Mine's great every day. I love what I do.
Well, good. I'm glad you love what you do.
I get to be around interesting people, but I've known you for a while, and you've always been, just the nicest person.
Thank you.
And I've always said,
I feel the same way about you.
Look, it's always Kahalah Clay. I always say her first and last name, but I do that with a lot of people, especially a lot of females. But when you're really outstanding, I really say your first and last name. So my wife asked me, so what? I said, well, I'm going Kahalah Clay. She's like, oh, okay, all right. But yeah, you've always been a great person, and it seems like even like your A1. Nicole, she's always been just so great.
She is wonderful.
And I know that's your rider right there.
That's my rider right there.
Yeah, I remember when she worked at the circuit clerk office. And it seems like you pushed her to do more. It seems like it was kind of a vice versa thing. And that was that. I watched that from a distance.
Yes, and so we always encourage each other. So like you said, I'm encouraging her and pushing her, she's encouraging me and pushing me, and together we just put that I love you, you love me, we riding, don't nobody mess with us, don't nobody mess with you. And
what you got also, was it 3 the Hard Way?
Yes.
What's that about?
Yes, Latoya and me, Latoya and Chris. But again, being the circuit clerk
relationships
put me in those spaces. Like, of course I knew Latoya beforehand, but it brought us back closer together. Chris being in the circuit clerk's office, and he was, where he doing all the many things he was doing with probation.
Right.
And Nicole.
Tell me, I remember on one of the episodes with Senator Belt on how he met you. I remember that was specifically when who was in the courtroom that said that Marvis, he's a bailiff. When he said, this is Crow's sister. And what did you say? And what of it?
That's right. That's right. So my brother is Corey, and he is like the greatest uncle in the galaxy. He absolutely adores my children, and they have such a special relationship with him. And, he's my big brother. He's the fire killer. He's all those things. He's a Sigma. He's just such a wonderful person, and he makes me better. So, he sometimes has like a love-hate relationship with me, but I have a love-love relationship with my big brother. Like, I absolutely adore him. And so it's me and him till the world blows up.
That's it.
That's me and
That's
him.
a beautiful
till the world
thing.
blows up.
That is a beautiful thing. So now you are this newly elected circuit clerk, and you're building these relationships with different people in politics. So tell me, I understand it's pearls in politics, but where does the pearl come from?
The pearl comes from just serving, wanting people to have information. It's because of a lack of knowledge that people perish. So like we said in the beginning, wanting people to have the information that they need to be the best them. So whether it's mental health, whether it's physical health, because that kind of goes into season 2 and subsequent seasons. And then, of course, now we're heading full steam into election season.
Right.
So a lot of people don't understand separation of powers, or that there's the judicial branch and they're very specific with what they do, or the legislative branch and they're very specific with what they do. And there's the executive branch and they're very specific with what they do. But just wanting people to know. So the pearls are all the things, the pearls of wisdom, the pearls of knowledge that are going to make us better, healthier all across the board in every area of our lives.
So you're inviting all of the people that can drop these pearls to let, hey, these are the things that you need to be aware of. See, I haven't seen a podcast like that. You're the first to do it this way here in Illinois.
You're so kind.
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anything else you would, and see, and I'm speaking as if this is my show. Is there anything else you would like us to know about you? Or let me do you. Would you come back? Will you come back? I mean, I hope I can't be you. I'm not as pretty and not as beautiful, but I am here with my hairline behind my ears and trying to be you for a minute, because I actually enjoy watching your podcast and I enjoy producing it, and you are one of a kind and you are a great friend.
Thank you. And I feel the same way about you. So that's what I want people to know.
She don't like me.
My podcast producer is the best. So if you were looking for a podcast producer, a website designer.
Oh, no more websites. No more websites. I don't want I do them still. I do.
If you're looking for a website designer.
Yeah.
If you were looking for headshots, professional, beautiful, or extremely handsome headshots, this is the man for you. Yeah. And you'll have to drop your information. But this has also been about supporting business. So supporting Black business, supporting women in business, because as SVP Fenoy said, 300-meter deficit.
Right.
In so many areas. And so there are so many people like you, so many people like me, so many people like Sandra and Associates, and so many people like Alex Fenoy that have all of these services. And oftentimes we don't even know, right? We don't know that she's right there in Belleville. We don't know that Nicole and her
Renee Lewis,
brokerage.
Brokerage.
I didn't want to call her Angel, but you know what I'm saying? Exactly. I'm trying to put respect on everybody's name.
But onto this Black business thing, are you going to have women of business and Black women of business and Black men that are entrepreneurs on your podcast?
Absolutely. And so that is something that we're going to be transitioning into here, is going to be our creatives. Having our creatives on, having our Black business owners on, having our Black women business owners on to talk about their products, to talk about their companies and their services, and how you all can reach them and partake in their services. So.
See, that's good. There's not a platform around here that does this, particularly on a podcast, where you could come on with your business. And here's the thing, make sure you're in business. Don't come in if you Lil Johnny and Pojo and them. Well, sometimes Lil Johnny and Pojo are the best mechanics you can go to. But be a business. And here's the thing. There's relationships that you could build through this podcast. If you need someone to help you with the LLC, they're here. If you need someone with a trademark attorney, all those relationships are here. So, drop comments, send emails. You can even send a passenger pigeon if you have one. But I really enjoy your platform. I think you are, you're steadily rising on this, and I think it's more to come.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I appreciate your wonderful Juliana for
the wife.
sharing you with the world, because she doesn't have to do that. No, she don't. We would be at such a deficit.
She don't.
We would be at such a deficit if we did not have you. I could not do what I do without my podcast producer, without Chris. I had Joseph Anthony with my beautiful graphics.
Yeah, he's really super talented.
Yes, I had Treasure with, my trademark attorney, and she'll be on to express the need for branding and making sure it's done properly and trademarking your brand and things of that nature. But
what about those glasses?
Oh, absolutely. And my exclusive glasses from Everything Bling Accessories and Things with my classmate Shar. You can always find her on social media. She has we get the exclusives from her right now.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
Yes, and so there are just so many things. And of course, Sparkle's Home is doing wonderful. We've been with them, showcasing their stuff all season. So it's just been really great. Like you said, just being able to have these people come together. Right. It's really been an experience. It's certainly been a labor of love, and I have every desire to continue going with it. And so I just, pray for strength and creativity, right? Hey. Because I'm not a creative. Like this is stretching me. Okay.
No, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. You're doing great. People think being a creative is fun. It's not. It's a fight. Mm-hmm. Because I have that fight in my mind all the time. Hey, we'll do it this way, do it that way, do it this way. But you are creative because you know what? You get up here, and this is not somewhere I'm comfortable. I'm never comfortable behind the mic. I'm comfortable behind the camera.
You are.
But I stretched to come on here with you because this is not something I do. But I have to get used to it because I will be doing Urban Eats here in a second.
Scary. It's going to be amazing.
This is scary.
It's going to be amazing, though.
Oh, was it the ASMR? It's going to be really scary. Do you know about ASMR?
No, what is it?
Where they talk like this into the microphone, and you have to listen real close.
Oh, wow.
Or they're eating like chips, and it's the crunch that goes into the mic. You have never heard of it?
No.
Oh.
Of course you would.
Oh, no, my daughter, that's her thing.
Okay.
Oh, she watched some lady eat crab legs. And they have the mic right there with the crab. And I says, wow. But like a lot of creatives, I watch them. Thank you, Kahalah, for having me on here with you today. And it's,
Okay.
ASMR.
It's
weird.
New that you learn every day in the podcast space. So.
Yeah. I can't, I just have fun.
But thank you so much for doing this with me because, again, the episode about me probably never would have come to actual fruition because
it's hard talking to that camera, isn't it?
Especially about yourself.
Yeah.
But so many people wanted to know my story, my journey, and then I want people to know my story and my journey because I feel that it can bless others. And help others say, you know what? If she kept going after all that, I can keep going. If she can bounce back from all that, I can bounce back. If I can believe for greater than seeing what she's been through or seeing what, all the pivots that he made sure that she made,
But every time you pivoted, God had you. Mm-hmm. You never fail. You just had it was meant to go the way it went.
Uh-huh.
So
absolutely.
So do you want me to be you on the out?
Yes.
Oh, this is going to be hard. Thank you for tuning in to Pearls and Politics podcast, where we are polished and poised for greatness and impact. I am Christopher Michaels. I'm not the host. Kahalah is. Hey, we'll see you next week.